Happy Halloween, everybody. I have no parties to go to and we rarely get trick-or-treaters, so I have absolutely no need for a costume. But the absolutely amazing Christine McConnell made a witch's hat, and it was a Christmas witch's hat, but it was so pretty and such a clever way of putting something together. Now, I've made a couple of hats in the past, but they have been felt or fabric hats and have worked out okay in some instances and not so okay in other instances. But I saw this witch's hat and I just thought I could do that. Usually when I watch any of Christine's videos, I literally sit there with my jaw just dropping further and further towards the floor because, oh my goodness, that woman is talented. If you haven't seen her latest Halloween video carving a witch's broom, then you need to go and watch that one. So the tutorial that I'm using is, as I say, for a Christmas witch's hat, but it is part of her Patreon, so it's an exclusive Patreon only video. So I won't be showing very much of her process of doing this. You will see my fumbling attempts to try and replicate the masterpiece that she has created. So let's go back to Thursday the 26th of October, because that's a reasonable amount of time to give yourself to try a brand new project that you've never done before and get it finished and photographed and filmed and uploaded on YouTube for Halloween. I want to have this hat made, finished, decorated, photographed and videoed in time to put up a video on Tuesday. Can I do this? We shall see. I have decided to follow along with a Christine McConnell tutorial that is on her Patreon. Wish me luck. I have my gloves because I have the screen mesh that she suggests, although this was the widest one that I could find in the UK. I have two 1 meter rolls by 30 centimeters, so I'm hoping that's going to be enough. I've got my hot glue and hot glue gun, tape measure, some pattern making card which I'm going to use for the brim. I have got an actual hat here that fits me well, and I actually really like the width and size of the brim of this one, so I might stick with this, or I might follow along with Christine's tutorial and add wedges of fullness for a really dramatic brim. Probably will do that, to be honest. And I have 2 meters, or how much do I have? 1.8 meters of this brown micro suede that I got from minerva.com to attempt to cover the wire shell. This is either going to be totally awesome or an absolute nightmare. Let's see. So right from the get-go, I made a mistake. I did what I thought was a genius thing and brought down a hat that fit me well, and I used this straw hat to work out the size that I wanted to make my witch's hat, and I used it to try and work out how deep I wanted the brim and what the overall shape was going to be. This hat fits me well, it's comfortable, it's a great idea, right? No. This hat is made of straw and it's really malleable and it fits to the size of your head, whereas the one that I'm making is made from metal, card and hot glue, which in and of themselves are all malleable, but when combined together are surprisingly sturdy, as this line across the top of my forehead can attest to. So I definitely made a mistake right from the get-go. Never mind. I have wildly underestimated. I also thought I had massively underordered on the amount of window screen that I had bought. I got 2 rolls that were 30 centimeters wide and 1 meter long. In my head that was going to be fine, and then when I came to start doing everything and rolling it all out, it was just like, this is not going to be enough. Turns out it was exactly the right amount, which was great. I'm going to work with what I've got. I have got 4 more rolls arriving on Saturday the 28th, but yeah, I'm gonna persevere with what I've got and try and make it work, and yeah, let's see how that goes. The only thing that I couldn't do with the window screening that I bought was cut out the brim in one piece, so I made a bunch of what Christine calls pie wedges. I put those all over the brim, having measured out the seam allowance, as it were, so that I had something to turn under around the edge of the brim when I had put the floristry wire in later to give the brim some stability. Okay, so I think I have already made a mistake. Of course I have. It is a lot more rigid around the brim than I was expecting it to be, but that's because I've used so much hot glue. Yeah, so the next step that Christine does is cut in 4 places and add wedges of fullness. And I'm kind of hoping that's going to allow me to maybe shape the hat a little bit more. We'll see how that goes. I'm going to draw out some wedges on my scrap pieces of card. I've got enough. I don't think any of these are particularly big enough, unfortunately. Oh, that one is. Oh yeah, I think I can do this because I'm going to try not to waste too much stuff, and I don't want this to be super full, but I would like, you know, I'm trying to follow along with a tutorial, so we'll see how this goes. She makes this look so easy. I mean, of course she does. Actually, I've only got 3 pieces of additional mesh, so I'm going to add 3 because that makes sense. That's what I've got. So much hot glue. She also did some relief cuts into the brim so she could shape it a bit more, so I'm going to give that a try as well. See if that'll work. It'll be fine, it'll be fine, totally fine. Hers looks so much neater than mine. She's also turned under the excess around the edge, so I'm going to put my gloves back on, get that done. And then we'll try and add some pie wedges of fullness.
This did not work.
I broke my scissors. Whoops. It's not good. Okay, next.
I grabbed some sturdier scissors and gave the relief cuts another try and did actually manage to make 2 or 3. This did not help with squishing the hat into shape, as you can see here. Never mind.
Okay, let's try this wedge of fullness business. So you can see here I am adding in the pie wedges of fullness to make the brim extra floofy. It worked and it was really extra floofy, but I decided that I didn't really like it, so I took most of them out. I do think I've ended up with a little bit of extra fullness in the brim, but not as much as the inspiration tutorial has suggested. I think a common theme for the entirety of this process was she makes this look so easy. She makes this look so easy. We are on day 2 of the witch's hat project. I did have this on the hat and hated how it looked, so I've taken it off, added some more bits on there. It was on this direction and I'm thinking about putting it back on backwards so that the point curls that way. I'm not 100% sure yet. I think what I'm going to try and do is work on getting the point pointy. And I have got a little bit of the floristry wire that I used around the brim because I'm working with what I have, because yeah, none of these are the exact things that Christine McConnell uses in her tutorial, but never mind. So yeah, I think I'm going to try and make this top bit good and then work out how I want to put it on that and then go from there. So yeah, wish me luck. I'm going to put some alias on in the background and put you on a time lapse and we'll see how this goes. You do need a new battery though, so let's do that first. I think this is as good as it's going to get, and it actually looks, believe it or not, fairly decent on, but I do think I need to wrap this in the quilt batting, which is not a very lofty one, and the mum has a lot of scraps which she said I could use before I try and put fabric on it because it's not the smoothest of things. But it was an interesting experience getting it to this point. So yeah, that is my next job, is to try and wrap this in quilt batting. I'm kind of hoping that this is going to be spiky enough and sticky enough that the batting will stick to it with minimal hot glue. I mean, I've got plenty of hot glue. I've got all these sticks and then I've got an entire box of sticks in the stash, so it's not like I am going to run out of hot glue, but it would be easier to do this next step without gloves on, I think, as long as I'm careful, because I really don't want to get any of these little bits stuck on me. got my hair in it, it's got hot glue spider webs everywhere. Yeah, I think covering this with batting is going to hide a multitude of sins, and then we can move on to fabric, which again she makes look really easy, and I have a feeling is going to be incredibly difficult. It'll be fine, totally fine. Okay, if I was going as a mummy, this could work. I mean, I'm not going anywhere, I'm literally making this because I've seen one and I thought that's pretty, I won't lay it, but yeah. So I'm really glad that I've covered everything in this quilt batting, because it's not constantly trying to eat me now. The wire, she does say it's prickly and she's not wrong, and I would not have been able to do it without these gardening gloves. I will list everything I use in the description down below. Turns out that the 1 meter square of window mesh that I got was literally perfect. I had a few scraps left over, so the extra that I've ordered that did arrive in time, in case this was an utter flop, I will be sending back, because I'm not sure that anyone needs 2 of these, to be honest. But I have made a mistake and it is slightly too small. One of the first things that Christine says is,
let me warn you about something really important here. You want to make sure this headband that you're creating is on the excessive side, so a little bit too big. And the reason for that is we're going to be adding layers of fabric inside and kind of bending it different ways. And you definitely don't want to create a custom hat that is too tight or uncomfortable when you wear it. So err on the roomier side.
and I thought I'd listened, and I clearly have not, because this fits on my head. And I have got batting on the inside of this so that it doesn't try and eat me on the inside either. And that has obviously made it slightly smaller, but it fits better. It was round as well. She does say to make it egg-shaped, and I tried, but failed clearly. And then I also failed with the making it bigger than I thought I needed it, because I did that and it still wasn't big enough. So it does sit on my head, but I'm very aware of it sitting on my head. So yeah, it's not going to be worn for long periods of time. It's going to be worn to take a photo, and I think it's going to end up living on the mannequin in the corner. But I'm on to the stage now where I have to wrap my fabric around this and get it looking like, as she says herself,
A gorgeous stalk of asparagus.
except mine's brown, so it's going to look like a twig maybe. And yeah, the tutorial starts about 1 inch down, so she's clearly been getting her eye in and working out how to do this bit and make it look good, and she has made it look good. And she's just saying, you know, cut strips and wrap them around and cut off excess and it'll be fine. Let's see if it's fine. Wrapping this in fabric, Christine makes it look so easy, and it was easier the further down the hat that you got, but that little tip, that point, oh my goodness. Now mine was already a little chunky because of the batting that I'd put on. It's definitely not as fine as the original, but the first time I wrapped it around I was quite happy with how things were going, and then I managed to accidentally brush the nozzle of my hot glue gun across some fabric that was going to be seen, that was already attached, and it ended up with leaving a really big kind of white hot glue mark. So I had to take it all off and start again, which sucked, but I'm glad that I did, because that white mark would have really bugged me if I'd left it at the tip of that, or the point of the hat. That really would have just not been great. So I did decide to try again.
This was definitely the trickiest part, the tip of the hat, and getting it to look tidy and sleek with the wrap over was, like I say, the most difficult part. But once you had got going, it did get easier. Christine herself says this. And the further down the hat you go, the larger pieces that you can use, which worked out really well. I would never have thought of doing this braiding detail on the side of the hat. So I'm really pleased that's how Christine finished hers, because like I say, it would never have been something that would have crossed my mind to do. I'm not sure how I would have finished this hat otherwise, but I think it looks really effective. I'm so glad that this fabric had some stretch in it. It's definitely made things a lot easier and made wrapping this hat in the way that I have a lot more forgiving. This was definitely a lengthy process and took a good sort of 3-4 hours. And because I did have stretch in my fabric, I was going to cover the brim by just cutting out a circle and cutting out the center of it and hand sewing that down. But I decided to go for the layered effect that Christine used as well. And I'm really glad that I did, because I do think it adds to it. And whilst that was a style choice that she made because her fabric had no stretch, I'm really glad that she did, because I do think it looks awesome. And I'm really glad that I went for that option on mine as well.
Okay, I have covered the majority of the hat. There's still kind of little glimpses of the white around the bottom of the brim, but it's going to get like a belt or decoration around there, so that's going to get hidden. And I still need to line cover this. Thankfully this fabric is actually stretchy, so that is one advantage I do have over Christine, because her micro suede was not stretchy but mine is. So I've already cut out the circle, but that's going to get sewn to the hat. And I don't know if you can hear, but fireworks have started, so I'm actually going to go up and sit with Chi. She's not usually bothered by fireworks at all. Dad is with the dog, but I think it's probably better I'm there than not, because it might be my presence. I'm bigging myself up massively, but it might be my presence that's keeping the cat like chill during fireworks.
Do you care about the fireworks? Didn't think so. Is my presence calming? Also didn't think so.
Unfortunately, as I've mentioned, this is not the most comfy of hats. And I have used a lot of hot glue in the brim, so it's not the most moldable of hats, despite being made of a moldable metal. So if I ever do this again, I will err even more on the side of caution and listen to the person who has made one and is teaching me how to do this. But never mind, I'm quite pleased with how it's come out so far, and it is, as I say, I'm not wearing this with a costume, so I won't have to have it on all night. I'm going to have it on for photos, and then it's going to live on the mannequin. It'll be fine. We are on day 3 of the hat making adventure. Not turning out too bad so far, but I do need to line it. It's still looking a little shoddy on the inside, so I need to put a lining piece in here, which is, according to the tutorial, a circular piece that's big enough to kind of like go over your head, so sort of go in there. And then I need to line the brim as well. Thankfully this suede that I've picked does have some stretch in it, so I should just be able to use that. The tutorial does use a different colour for the brim and it does look amazing, but I have decided that I want to have a completely brown base for mine, just so that I can change the decorations up on it. I won't be limited by like a complementary colour on the brim if I decide to go for something completely different, because at the moment I'm going for peacock colours because I have peacock feathers back there somewhere to trim this with. But yeah, I think going all brown is going to make this more versatile, although as I have said, it's not the comfiest thing, so I don't know how often I would wear it. Anyway, I need to stop waffling and I need to start get on with the lining. So I've cut myself a square, or well, it turns out it's a rectangle. I am going to round off the corners of this and then get that sewn into the brim of this, not that neatly, and then I will, basically I've done all this based on this hat, which does fit me really nicely, but this one's made of straw and is very moldable to the head, so it doesn't matter that it's round, whereas this one is rigid and it does matter that it's not the right shape for your head. So yeah, but I have taken this pattern from that hat, so I'm going to cut the center out, make little tabs, and hopefully finish this nicely on the brim. I don't think this is going to be the most fun I've ever had, but let's give this a try. I fully intended to line all of the hat, but I tried sewing down, or at least just pinning in the top lining for the hat before putting on the brim lining, and I could not put pins into this work, even through the quilt batting, to get things to stay in place. I don't know how she did it, I really don't. So I ended up scrapping the complete lining and I lined the brim with the circle that I had cut, and then I just used hot glue, pulled it taut and stuck the hot glue on stuck the tabs that I'd made by cutting into that inner circle, stuck those to the top of the hat with some tension on them so that the brim of the hat looked nice and smooth. Sewing on that lining took hours and my fingers were not pleased by the end of it. It's day 57 million of this project. In reality it's actually Monday the 30th, so it's got to be finished today, ready to be filmed and photographed tomorrow for tomorrow's evening's video. Mum has very kindly just sewn the lighter micro suede that I had. I cut out a tube, well I cut out a strip and she's sewn it into a tube, and I'm going to turn that through and attach it to the hat permanently, I think, to make the belt. Now on Christine's tutorial she did do a very fancy squiggle at the side, but that's because her decorations are going to be a bit different to mine. I know Christine's vegan, so she doesn't use any kind of animal products, so she would never have used feathers on her hat. She sculpted Pancake, the little toad, which is so cute, and the buckle, and then used some lace appliques to decorate her hat, which are absolutely beautiful, but I don't have the skill or the time to try polymer clay making for the first time, so I've decided to go with feathers, and they are dropped feathers. I did make sure of that when I purchased them. So like I say, Mum's sewn this into a tube for me, so I'm going to turn it through, press it if I can. It's micro suede. I'm going to try a bit of a scrap first just to check, then attach that to the hat. So I decided to use feathers to decorate mine. I was taking inspiration from some hats that I'd seen on Pinterest, and in my head, yes, this is a witch's hat, but it was a cross between a witch's and a pirate hat. You all know I've got this kind of obsession with Piratecore. That's why I have the giant sleeves on today and all of the jewellery. I kind of saw these hats on Pinterest and was just like, yeah, that's what I need. I also went to a pirate party years ago at Apley Beach. It was a summer party during the summer kids holidays. In the distance I saw this guy with this absolutely amazing pirate hat with giant peacock feathers. Like, he hadn't trimmed his peacock feathers at all. It was amazing. So that's where I took inspiration from for my feathery headpiece. I'm going to watch some feather crafting tutorials because feathers in and of themselves are very beautiful things, and I have a lot to play with, but supposedly with very minimal techniques you can get them to curl, and with some trimming and things like that you can get really interesting shapes from them. So that's what the entirety of this afternoon is going to be, is making the decoration for this hat in preparation for the finished article shoot tomorrow. The idea. I've watched back what I've done so far, and there was about 6 hours of footage, which hopefully I've condensed down as something interesting for you guys. But this hat's definitely taken me at least sort of 14-15 hours to get to this point, so yeah, it's definitely not a project to do like 4 days before you need it. Don't be like me, plan ahead. Anyway, all this waffling's not going to get this done, so let's get started. At least first turning a tube through, which I can definitely do, then feather crafting, which I'm no idea how that works, so we'll give that a try.
One eternity later.
I'm teasing you now, but the hat is, I think, finished. That took way longer to do than I envisioned. I kept trying to make something tasteful and small and elegant, like all the ones that I see on hats that everyone's going to wear out everywhere, and you know, like I would wear. But that's not what this is. So I have created what is probably a monstrosity, but I actually think is very, very beautiful. Completely fluffed up, and did it for the side that had the braiding on it so that you couldn't see the braiding, which was kind of annoying. I made something beautiful that looked beautiful from the front rather than sort of like going towards the back like a hat should. So I had to take all my peacock feathers out and reposition them, so it's not quite as I had envisioned it, but I think it's worked. I did go for floristry foam because I tried wiring things together. I made like a little pad that I was going to sew things together, and I just thought my fingers are not going to forgive me if I try and do that. So yeah, floristry foam is what worked for me. A small little disc of that happened to be something that I had in stock, so yeah. I'm going to stop waffling at you, I'm going to stop teasing you, and I'm going to show you what the hat looks like fully formed. I hope you enjoy. So yes, Mum's been growing gourds, pumpkins, nutter squash actually. I mean, I know it's butternut squash, but it just makes me laugh. So those two squash are the only Halloween themed things that we have around the house. Fingers crossed it worked. I am super pleased with how this has come out. Now, like I say, and have said repeatedly, this doesn't fit. I still have a line on my forehead here. I've waited an hour for this to go down. It looked like this when I first took the hat off. This hat is way too small for me. I should have listened to the expert and done as she has said and leave extra room in there, and I could have padded it to make it fit my head after the fact, but trying to make it bigger was very, very difficult. Now, I do think my base hat looks very much like Christine's. As I say, I went a completely different decoration route to her because I don't have the skills to do polymer clay moulding or sculpting at all. Is it over the top and too much? Absolutely. I do think it's awesome though. I am going to keep this on my mannequin in the sewing room as a decoration piece because I do think it's beautiful. I really, really love how this has turned out. As I say, I'm never going to wear it because it hurts. But I would like to try and make one of these again, and I think next time I am going to try using something like Cinema, which is a hat making product, although I do think that is something that's supposed to be seen because it comes in beautiful colours and lots of people make fascinator bases with that stuff. There's also buckram, obviously, French canvas, a whole bunch of other things. I had a look on McConnells and Wallace. It's the place that I know of that has a millinery section, so I went and had a look on there, and they have loads of different bases that I think could be used to achieve the same results. So I'm going to give that a try next time because I do want to make one of these again that is actually wearable and fits my head. As I mentioned, I absolutely love Christine McConnell. I think her talent is absolutely amazing, and I really enjoyed trying to follow along with her process. Now, usually she does baking. Recently she has been doing a lot of woodworking and decorating and painting. Her talent's no end, I know this, and if you haven't heard of her before, what rock have you been hiding under? And I will link all of her details in the description down below. Her Patreon is highly worth it. There are so many amazing videos on there, and she does put a video out nearly every month on regular YouTube as well, which also will be listed down below. I'm really glad that I picked this tutorial to follow. I mean, for a start, I don't bake, and I also don't have anywhere to store a £500 gingerbread house, even if I did bake. And I've never tried woodworking, so for me this is one of the obvious ones to give a try of her tutorials. She does make everything look so easy. It's so effortless and easy, but it is a joy to watch any of her videos, and so frequently she's like, I've never tried this before, but I'm gonna give it a go. It's really inspiring because I'm constantly like, I've never tried this before. It gives me the fear, no, let's leave it alone. So yeah, I really enjoyed this whole hat making process, even though at times you can definitely see my face is a little bit like, ah. But yeah, I'm going to leave the baking and the woodworking and the decorating to Christine 100%. If you've enjoyed this video, you might want to check out this one here.